Rainbow Rares were originally introduced in Sun and Moon base set released in 2017, and they were in the TCG all the way until Silver Tempest released in 2022. For a while, these cards were well loved, and many of the top chase cards from the Sun Moon era are these rainbow cards. But in the Sword and Shield era, they gradually fell off. These cards got very expensive, with the Charizard from Burning Shadows catching a value of $2,000 in a PSA 10. But nowadays, they've fallen from their highs and no one talks about them. Not only aren't people talking about them, but the prices of these cards have fallen. The Rainbow Lugia GX was worth $300 in 2021 and now is barely above $100. A fall of 66% in value doesn't just randomly happen. And it's not like supply of this card is going through the roof. A boatload of these packs have not been opened recently, not enough to drive it down 66%. So what's happening? Before we dive in, I want to address what some of you guys may be thinking. This isn't true across the board. Rainbow cards from the team up set have stayed strong, and even some of them have slightly increased in price in this time. However, when you examine the value of these cards and their change in value over time when compared to the sealed booster box of Team Up, you can see that proportionally, the Rainbow Rares are losing a lot of value compared to the sealed product. The Team Up set is just incredibly popular, and the tag team concept is what's carrying these cards here. So where did it all go wrong for Rainbow cards when it seemed like they could do no wrong in 2020? There are a couple of factors I see contributing here. One of them is the boom of 2020 and the crash of 2021 to 2023. At the peak of COVID, these cards, along with every other set all the way to base set, was overhyped. Eventually they had to come back down. In 2020 to 2021, people were given free money. It was injected into the economy to kind of stir up things and get people buying. And a lot of the free money that was given to people in the US went straight into their hobbies. And with this huge influx of money into people's hobbies, this meant that the cards in the hobbies just got incredibly overvalued. 2022 to 2023 was a bear market across pretty much every single collectible or every single hobby. The hype train, the money, all that stuff had gone away, and people realized that they had bills to pay. People left, and a lot of people sold off their collections. In this time, the stock market was also doing pretty poorly. The market reared its ugly head after that free money injection in 2020, and then everything came crashing down the earth in the years that followed. However, not every card across the Pokemon TCG crashed during this period. Certain cards, like alt arts, actually performed decently well in this period. Now, obviously, they're doing much better nowadays, but they didn't do too poorly then. So this bear market and this crash in 2021 to 2023 can't be fully to blame for the disappearance and the lack of popularity in Rainbow cards. The second factor that brought down the value of Rainbow cards in the Sword and Shield era was the lack of creativity and uniqueness. After the initial novelty of a Rainbow style card wears off, what makes it better or unique compared to a regular full art? Not much, honestly. On top of this, they made multiple Rainbow cards of these same Pokemon across different sets. Here is the Lugia from Silver Tempest, and here's the one from Lost Thunder. Both are Rainbow Lugia cards, but with very different price points. Another one. Here are two Rainbow Charizard cards. Again, very different price points. Many people who like these Pokemon and like the style of Rainbow cards will opt for the cheaper one that's more accessible to them, rather than the super expensive Sun and Moon version. Unless, of course, you love collecting Rainbow cards and you want to collect all of them, then obviously you're going to buy all of them. But this style of card is so different compared to special illustration rares and alt arts. Like, we've gotten two Charizards in the same year. Both are special illustration rares, but both look completely different. So there's demand for both of them, because they're both unique from one another. If you look at a binder of Rainbow cards from 15 feet away, they all look pretty much the same. The $200 cards and the $20 cards don't distinguish themselves from one another at all. If I went up to a random person who knows what Pokemon is but isn't in the hobby, they would have no way of picking out the $300 cards, the $1,000 cards, and the $15 cards. Rainbow Rares kind of all meld together. However, even the popular and somewhat distinct cards also crashed. The Rainbow Chonkachu from Vivid Voltage crashed really hard. Part of this was due to the massive reprints of this set. Due to the pandemic hype and the amount of demand around this set at the time, they had to reprint it and had to get it into the hands of players and collectors. But this card crashed from $300 to $400 to barely even breaking $100 nowadays. This Rainbow Pikachu was one of the most well-loved Rainbow cards ever released, and it still crashed. So I think there's one more factor at play here. The third factor is that these cards have gotten heavily overshadowed. And on top of this, the Pokemon Company has moved on. Obviously, the Pokemon Company can't keep printing the same cards over and over and over again because they lose their novelty. This was the death of the rainbow cards. This loss of novelty clearly happened in the Sword and Shield era, where the rainbow cards from the Sword and Shield era are not cared about at all when compared to the Sun and Moon ones. Even an Umbreon rainbow card doesn't catch a massive premium. The Pokemon Company is great at keeping things fresh as time goes on, but in doing so, they have to leave things behind. Let's take a step back and do a little history lesson. In the original base set, there were plain holo cards as the top chase cards. Then, they moved on to EX cards, which gained all the hype, and the regular holo cards got cheaper. After that, there were level X cards, which are some of my personal favorites. Then, they brought EX cards back and introduced full art cards. Then came Mega EX cards, regular and then full art versions being the highest tier of rarity. Then GX cards, along with rainbow versions. Next came Vs, VMAXs, and V-Stars, with alt art versions being the highest tier of rarity. It was simply time that the Pokemon TCG moved on from the rainbow rare style of card, and in turn lowered the prestige that these cards had. A combination of the bear market post-COVID with no more free money, a lack of distinction and uniqueness from card to card, and the Pokemon Company dropping them from the top tier chase slot and sets, all contributed into a loss of consumer interest in rainbow rare cards and the transition into the alt art era. There's a finite amount of hype and attention span in the hobby, and rainbow cards had it stolen by the likes of Giratina, Gengar, and Moonbreon. I don't know if we'll ever see rainbow cards again, but I wouldn't be upset if we did. I would just hope that they brought them back with some unique flair to it, something that could distinguish the future rainbow rare cards from the Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon ones. Maybe a more subtle rainbow foiling mixed with a alt art style card or a special illustration rare style card could be really cool. But who knows, the last rainbow card we might ever see might have come out in 2022. Thanks for watching, sub for the Squirtle, and as always, stay safe out there.